Look, the Blue Jays are in a tricky spot right now. And if you're a Toronto fan, you've got to be feeling some serious anxiety about this bullpen situation. They've gone out and made these massive moves for their rotation. Bieber staying, bringing in Dylan Cease and Cody Poteet. But while everyone's celebrating those signings, there's a glaring problem that's getting worse by the day. The relief pitching market is disappearing right before their eyes. Every time you refresh your phone, another reliever is off the board, and the Blue Jays are standing there watching it happen. They had their eyes on the big names, the closers everyone wants, and they've come up empty. Edwin Diaz, gone to the Dodgers. Robert Suarez, just signed with Atlanta for 3 years and $45 million. Jeff Passan dropped that bomb on December 11th, and you could practically hear Blue Jays fans groaning across Canada. Here's the reality. Toronto had serious conversations with Suarez before he chose Atlanta. They were in the mix. They were trying. But they didn't close the deal, and now they're scrambling because the options are getting thin. When you're trying to compete in the AL East, when you're potentially bringing in Kyle Tucker and maybe keeping Bo Bichette, when you've loaded up your rotation with ace-level talent, you cannot afford to have a bullpen that blows games in the 7th and 8th innings. And let's talk about where they are right now with their relief corps. Last season, the Blue Jays ranked 16th in baseball with a 3.98 ERA from their bullpen. That's decidedly mediocre. That's the kind of performance that gets you bounced from playoff contention when games matter most. And Jeff Hoffman, who they brought in to be their closer, had what can only be described as a disappointing season, 4.37 ERA across 71 games. Yes, he converted 33 of 40 save opportunities, but that ERA tells you everything about how shaky things were when the pressure was on. The front office knows this. They've been checking in on basically every top reliever available in free agency. That's what you do when you have a need this glaring. Pete Fairbanks, Luke Weaver, Brad Keller, all these names have been connected to Toronto at various points. But as the market moves and teams make their decisions, the Blue Jays need to pivot, and they need to do it fast. This brings us to Tyler Rogers, and I'm telling you right now, this might be exactly the kind of creative solution Toronto needs. The guy is 34 years old, which means some teams are going to pass because they want younger arms. But Rogers just posted a 1.98 ERA in 2024. Read that again, under 2. In today's game where relievers are getting lit up left and right, Rogers was one of the most effective arms in baseball. What makes him even more intriguing is his expected ERA. His xERA was 2.65, which ranked 14th among all pitchers. That means his results weren't fluky. The underlying metrics support what he was doing. He wasn't getting lucky with soft contact or benefiting from great defense. He was genuinely suppressing runs in a way that analytics say should continue. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. Rogers throws submarine style. When's the last time you saw a reliever coming at you from that arm angle? It's incredibly rare in modern baseball, and that rarity is a weapon. Hitters don't see that delivery. They don't get regular at-bats against someone throwing from down there. It throws off their timing, their pitch recognition, everything. Because of that funky delivery, Rogers can succeed with significantly lower velocity than your typical power reliever. His sinker comes in at 83.5 miles per hour. That's 9 miles per hour below average for a sinker. His slider is 74 miles per hour compared to the league average of 86.5 for right-handed pitchers. On paper, those numbers look like he's throwing batting practice. But in reality, that deception from his delivery makes those pitches incredibly difficult to square up. The home run numbers are what should really get Toronto's attention. Over his entire 7-year career, Rogers has given up 28 home runs total. 28 in 7 seasons. To put that in perspective, Jeff Hoffman and Chad Green combined to surrender 29 home runs in 2024 alone. One season from 2 Blue Jays relievers equals Rogers' entire career total. That is absolutely absurd. Think about what that means for a team. Late in games, when you're protecting a lead, the home run ball is what kills you. It's the sudden death pitch. One swing and the game is tied, or you're behind. Rogers essentially eliminates that concern. Batters aren't hitting home runs off him because they can't get the barrel to the ball consistently enough with that delivery and those pitch speeds. They're either making weak contact or missing entirely. Rogers isn't a closer, though, and that's important to understand. He's not the guy you want for save situations necessarily. What he is and what he's been exceptionally good at is being a high leverage setup man. Over the past 5 years, he's recorded at least 30 holds in 4 of those seasons. Last year, his 32 holds were 4th most among all relievers in Major League Baseball. That's the guy who pitches the 7th or 8th inning when the game is on the line, getting crucial outs before you hand the ball to your closer. For Toronto, that role is perfect. They need someone who can bridge to the 9th inning, someone who can come in with runners on base and get out of jams, someone who isn't going to serve up a 3-run homer that destroys all the good work your starting pitcher just did. Rogers fits that description exactly. The financial side makes sense too. This isn't going to be some massive commitment that hamstrings the organization. SpotRack has his market value pegged at $11.3 million per year, and MLB Trade Rumors is predicting a 2-year, $18 million deal. In today's market, for a reliever with his track record and effectiveness, that's extremely reasonable. That's the kind of contract that won't hurt you even if things don't work out perfectly, but has massive upside if he continues performing the way he has been. Toronto has young arms in their system, guys like Braden Fisher, Mason Fluharty, Brendan Little, and Yariel Rodriguez, who provide depth. But depth pieces aren't what win you close games in September or carry you through October. You need that veteran presence who's been there before, who knows how to handle pressure situations, who isn't going to panic when there are runners on base and the heart of the order is coming up. The Blue Jays are at a crossroads. They've invested heavily in their rotation, and they're making moves to improve their offense. But if they let the bullpen remain a weakness, all those other investments become questionable. You can't win games when you're giving away leads in the late innings. You can't make the playoffs when your relievers are putting you in holes your offense has to constantly dig out of. Rogers represents exactly the kind of smart, under-the-radar acquisition that separates good front offices from great ones. He's not the flashy name. He's not the guy who throws 100 miles per hour and makes highlight reels. But he's effective, he's consistent, he brings something unique that opposing hitters struggle with, and he fills a massive need for this team. Sometimes the best moves aren't the loudest ones. Sometimes they're the ones that quietly fix your biggest problems without anyone really noticing until September. When your bullpen is shutting down opponents and keeping you in every single game, the market is moving fast. The options are disappearing. If Toronto waits too long, they'll be stuck settling for lesser arms or overpaying for whatever's left. Tyler Rogers is sitting right there, available, affordable, and exactly what they need. It's time for the Blue Jays to make their move.